cold calling in the caveman days, they were just banging on the rocks. I mean, when my career began a few years before yours, cold calling was the core of most business, and people expected it. Everyone had a phone on their desk. People weren't afraid to answer the phone, talk on the phone, and there weren't other alternatives for communicating in the way that there is today.
You found your way to the Winning Tactics podcast with host Adam Sinkus. Adam discusses winning tactics with small business owners and entrepreneurs, uncovering processes and introducing the tools and solutions for enhancing the bottom line. Thanks again for finding your way to the Winning Tactics podcast. And now your host, Adam Sinkus.
All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is the best day of the week. We're going to go with the best day of the week because it's Winning Tactics Podcast Day. Exciting show today. We are talking about your car's extended warranty. Oh, wait. No. We're talking about the guys that call and bug you about your car's extended warranty. Today, I'm excited to bring Andrew on the show. Andrew, welcome to the show. So glad to have you on. We're going to get down and dirty about cold calling and what it is and how it's really on life support at this point. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
What do you mean? You told me I would just have yes and no questions. What's this? Interrupt. I'm sitting here watching sitcoms and from the 70s. And no, as Adam said, I'm Andrew Deutsch with Fangled Group, formerly Fangled Tech. And my role in this world is to be a global marketing and sales consultant, and that's what we do. We help clients convert every touch to voracious advocates for their brand here in the U.S. and in about 120 different countries where we operate.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. So glad to have you on. It's cold calling is an interesting space right now because it's happening not only on the phone, but it's also happening in social media as well. And spam is on the rise with just calls that we don't want. So let's kind of dive into this. Let's talk about cold calling as it was. What was cold calling, kind of pre-COVID, really the internet being the place where so much business is done?
Well, how far back do we want to go? It was cold calling in the caveman days. They were just banging on the rocks. I mean, when my career began a few years before yours, cold calling was the core of most business, and people expected it. Everyone had a phone on their desk. People weren't afraid to answer the phone, talk on the phone. And there weren't other alternatives for communicating in the way that there is today. So today we have 1,000 ways to bang on the gate besides picking up the phone and calling. And we have two generations, the millennial and the Gen Zs, that don't realize that the telephones are even made for having verbal communication. So it's a different world today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? I don't know about you, but like my business phone is my cell phone, right? I have a separate line for my business. Like I don't even have a phone on my desk. I don't even have a phone line coming into my house that I work out of, right? Because you don't need it. But that being said, it's changed the way I feel about people reaching out to that phone. Fundamentally for me, it's like it's more of an intrusion because it's always on me, whether they call me at 7 a.m, 9 a.m, 6 p.m, it's an intrusion in what's going on. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've even gotten to the point now where if I do need to have a verbal conversation with someone, I text first. Or I email first and say, are you available for a quick call? Because people get annoyed when their phone rings. It's funny too, because if you're out in public or even in an office space and somebody's phone starts to ring, look at the expression on their face. It's that same expression that people have when they pick up after their dog on a walk in the park with those little plastic bags. I mean, the expression's incredible. But there's still a real need to have verbal communication, because no matter how good you are at texting, no matter how good you are at writing, the implied messaging isn't there that you pick up from those verbal cues. And Zoom has taken, and WebEx and all of those things have sort of come into the play, where now we even get the visual cues. But
Yeah.
it's unusual anymore, especially since the COVID days, where everybody's been on Zoom, and other people besides those of us that have been on it forever are used to video conferencing. It's taken over. I'll get a note from somebody, and it'll say, can you hop on a Zoom? They don't say, can you take a call?
Yeah, I think I work with the home services industry a lot, and a lot of the businesses that we work with got rid of physical offices during COVID, right? They didn't necessarily stop working, but they got rid of physical offices because they weren't bringing their teams in so much to be in the office. They were, meet at the job site, let's go do the work, and and then everybody goes home and works from their house. And so when you take that physical office presence out of it, it changes it even further, I think, than it was.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a store sells computer equipment, Micro Center. I don't know how national or not they are, but they're well known. They no longer, unless it's the service department, they don't have phones in the store. If you call your local, you'll end up at a switchboard somewhere else. All store calls are taken at one place. So unless for some reason the name of a salesperson, you have something specific to talk about, they will not transfer you to a phone in the store, because it's gone away. Which I know the topic today is really about cold calling and not about the phone itself. But I think there's several factors that have killed the cold call in many ways. And we talk about warm calls, which is, hey, can we meet on the phone and talk? Is your phone rings first thing in the morning, it's a scam. It's somebody you're faking like they're your grandson who needs help. There's somebody who says they're from Microsoft and you have a virus. They're from a fake bank wanting you to verify your data. Those people have killed. So immediately, starting in the day you get that call, the rest of the day anybody else is calling you has got to be a scam. Then there's the next level, which is I've got some MLM. I'm selling Herbalife. I'm selling Amway, or some of those businesses that, of course, in my opinion, shouldn't exist, but we won't go into that. And then the next level is today. 3 times today, I made the mistake of answering my phone. All 3 from the same script. We have a copy of your resume, and you're a perfect fit for our position. And the position is buy a franchise.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, you get a dozen phone calls. One might be someone you want to talk to. Everybody goes to voicemail.
The other thing that's interesting about that, right, is with cell phones, right, you put everybody that you put their phone number in your cell phone and you store it. And so when they call, their name comes up. But, if I get a call from a number I don't recognize, unless I'm expecting it, I don't typically answer it. I'll let it go to voicemail.
Yep.
Anymore.
Yeah. And people don't like to leave voicemails. So
no.
there was a guy who was calling and leaving a message every day for someone who I don't know. And I wasn't answering it because I didn't know who it was, and I would listen to the voicemail. I actually picked up the phone and called the guy because he sounded like a sweet old dude. He sounded like a really nice guy leaving the messages, and he was distressed that he couldn't reach this person. And I called him and I said, man, I'm only calling you out of courtesy. The phone number that you're calling has been my number for years, and it's not the person who you're reaching out to. I think you've got the wrong number. Can you please stop calling me? And he was thankful because he'd been calling again, and
yeah.
And it's as I made a new friend. He thought that was a kind thing to do.
What I think is interesting is cold calling, in my opinion, has shifted, right? So it used to be all phone, right? Everybody, you cold call on the phone, but now you've got LinkedIn, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram direct messages, and whatever other social channels you're on, pretty much all have direct messaging. And like, I get bombarded probably 10, 15 of them a day in my LinkedIn of sales opportunities. I want to sell you this. I have this product. You need this. You need that. And like, to me, that's the new cold calling.
Yep. Yeah. The email, the text, the direct message. Yeah. It's interesting. In a week, you can defy mathematics, because it's amazing to me. I'll meet 5 number 1 SEO firms in the world. All 5 of them are number 1. I don't know how to do that math, but I like the fact that we're warping the the function of it. And by the way, all of them have one ex-Google employee who knows the algorithm. That's the other. Google must not have any more employees with all the ex-Google employees that are tied into these SEO firms.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're both very active on LinkedIn, and both generate business from the space. How do you approach, so to speak, that cold call when you want to start engaging with somebody towards working towards a sale?
Well, if there's an actual lead with a project, Bob from company X, to not say who I really think there is a possibility that we could help each other. I could help them, whatever. Then I build a strategy around what's the best way to reach that guy without freaking him out and making him feel like he's being stalked. So sometimes I will send a connection request with a very clear reason in the note as to why that would be. If that fails, maybe what I will do is find a podcast that I think is one of the episodes that I've done that I think is relevant to the conversation I wanted to have, and look to see who in my network can get him to watch it. And also I do go on their corporate and pick up the phone and call and leave a voicemail and say, hey, I had sent you the LinkedIn connection, and the reason I did was this, and I'd really like to talk to you about that topic. I think it's beneficial. Now, there'll be ones that I'll do that and they'll never respond. The other thing, which is when LinkedIn first began, was I would look at my network and see who knows who. Well, now there's these crazy fad people out there that they want to connect with everybody, and they think it's a badge of courage. I've got 30,000 connections. Well, then you see, Adam is a second connection. He knows this guy. So I reach out to Adam. I go, hey, Adam, can you introduce me to the guy at Company X? And Adam goes, hey, I'm just connected with him. I never talked to him. I don't know who he is, which defeats the whole purpose of networking anyhow. There's the people who I've never met in my network are not a resource, except that they do read the content that I put out there, and it might encourage them to reach out if something is inspiring. But for the most part, it's pollution.
Yeah. You make a really interesting point, right? Is we're so focused on, there's so many people, I shouldn't say there's so many people so focused on just expand my network, the number of connections I have. And this goes far deeper than just, building your personal brand and your personal equity and being able to reach people. But, there's so many people that are just focused on that vanity number.
Yep.
But you didn't quite directly say it, but I'm going to directly say it, is that the importance isn't the number, it's the relationships that are behind those numbers.
Yep. I was talking with a guy who, by the way, calls himself the LinkedIn guru, and he has new math. I love new math. He said, last year, from all of the contacts that I made on LinkedIn, I made this much money. And because I have 20,000 people that are connected with me, and I don't know how many thousand followers, and he divided the money by the number of people and said, so each connection is worth this much to me. And I said, okay, that doesn't correlate, but it's an interesting, it's the kind of numbers that companies use. 4 out of 5 dentists prefer people who chew sugarless gum. Doesn't mean anything. But I said, well, what would have happened if instead of spending all of your time trying to add 20,000 people to your following and all of that, you reached out to the ones you did know and you did more business with them? Would you be a better businessman if instead of each contact being worth $1,000, whatever BS number you came up with, if they were worth $100,000 a contact? If you could strategically target and do business with the people in your network, and by the way, if you've got 30,000 connections, when your news feed pops up, the relevant stuff isn't there because you're polluted with boat dismantlers in some third world country and coal miners, and and all of those are great human beings, but do they help your business? Is it a social platform to be your social life, or social in terms of you growing your business?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover with that, right? There's definitely people that I've built, beyond a business relationship with from my social platforms. But they all started in that space of, we have a mutual interest, we have a mutual agenda, and we started a conversation. And so to kind of circle that back into the cold calling space, right? Because ultimately, what do when the winning sales strategy is people buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? And so when you start down that cold calling path, right, your brand or yourself needs to establish those three things very, very quickly with whomever you're talking to. And so, with so much spam, I think that's getting harder. But what are some of your strategies for starting to develop that know, like, and trust with clients when you kind of do that cold outreach to them?
I don't disguise what the conversation is going to be about. That's number one. And this is one of my favorite examples. So I met someone, and they sent me a note after this networking thing that I had sort of presented in, and she said to me, "Andrew, I think that my business could use your help. Could you please?" And she booked an hour on my schedule, because to me that meant she was interested in possibly becoming a client. The help that she wanted was for me to sign up for her coaching because she needed more clients. and I led with, had you told me that that was the purpose of the call, we would not have met. And maybe someday in the search of coaching, I may have reached out to you. But now you opened the door dishonestly with me. The door is closed. We're done.
Yep.
There's no second chance for lying. So for example, we do quite a bit of qualitative research. So when I reach out, I'll have a client and we're going to talk to their top 10 customers. We're going to talk to 10 customers that are semi-loyal and ones that left. So the top 10, the customer that we're doing the work for calls them and says, "Hey, Andrew's calling," or one of Andrew's people's calling. The Fangled team is working. We value your opinion. The ones in the middle, we reach out under similar, and we say, "We know that you do business back and forth, and we're doing market research. We'd like to understand why." And the ones who quit, they're never going to talk to us if they know that it's from the company that possibly pissed them off. So we call them and we say, "We're doing market research in this segment as Fangled Group Market Research. And we really want your opinion because we know that you're an active consumer in this space." But we don't pitch. And we even say, this is not a sales pitch. We will not be offering you services. We will not be offering you anything where we would ask you to open your wallet. What we're asking you for is your expert opinion. And I'd say, of the top group, the ones that the company introduces, we get 8 out of 10. The ones in the middle, we talk to maybe 6 out of 10. And the ones that quit, usually we get 9, 10 out of 10. Because if they quit somebody, they've got a bug in them. Something happened and they're anxious to tell someone. And that data is invaluable. But that's the kind of call. The other is if we're doing prospecting for a client where we're doing outreach, cold calling, it's usually from a vetted list where say for example, I've never done this, so I'm going to just pick an example to not pollute. We're dealing with a company that makes accessories for a specific model of Honda car that makes the car cool. And we know that the demographic is people who own Honda cars between the ages of 18 and 26. And we have that list. We would start the call with, "We know that you have this vehicle, and we'd really like to send you something in the mail so that you can see this cool way to make your car," so that we connect. The car warranty guys, oh, we see that your car warranty is expiring. And you say, oh, really? What model car do I have? Oh, well, the list doesn't tell me that. They just tell me it's near expiration, because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
So getting a right off the bat, a token of understanding that you do in fact know something about them and you want to hear from them and you can help them, will take your cold calling from getting 90 out of 100 hanging up on you to 87.
Yeah. Well, I've always said cold call sales is a numbers game. I hate that it's a numbers game, but sales ultimately is a number game. And
it's numbers and skill. It's numbers and skill. I'm going to give you a story they used to tell in business school back before you were born. Insurance guy, first day on the job at Acme Insurance, and he went through training. He picks up the phone and he calls this angry guy. He says, I don't talk to insurance people over the telephone. And the insurance guy says, well, thank you very much. I just made $10. And he says, what do you mean you made $10? I told you to F off. Yeah, but I just came out of training and they told me in this business that typically out of 10 calls, we make one sale. And every time I make a sale, I make $100. So you saying no to me put $10 in my pocket. And they go, what are you talking about? Well, it's my pleasure. I don't mind the no, because I know that I'm going to be selling. And if you're not the customer and you don't really see the value of what we can do to help your family and make them comfortable if something were to happen to you, well, what do you mean? And then he starts talking about the insurance, and before long he sold the guy the insurance.
Yeah.
So, it's not about a gimmick. It's about something that actually relates to and recognizes people where they are. Most people don't want to be called. Even when it's somebody who's supposed to call me, they say, can I speak to Andrew? Who's this? State your business. I don't really say that, but
I do. I won't lie about that. I do. I totally.
You go state your business. Show me your papers.
And where are you calling from?
Yeah.
But
what rock did you crawl out from underneath, sir?
But I like the fact that being transparent up front, I think that's so important. There's a balance though, right? Because there's transparent up front, and then I'm going to pitch you my product before I even know if it fits your need or you even care. Yeah. Right.
It's about asking questions and listening. Absolutely.
So I like the story about the insurance salesman, right? Because he found a road in that created and piqued interest, but didn't cram it down this guy's throat, mm-hmm. And so that's, I think, a really creative solution to making that entry into the next part of the sale, right? Because let's be honest, that's probably the hardest part of cold calling is getting your entry point to have the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, you've got to find a way to meet that person at their model of the world immediately so that there's a connection. And it's typically through a transparent statement and a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. We're going to pause for just a minute because I want to thank Cowork Hub Virtual for supporting the show. They're giving consultants, coaches, freelancers, and solopreneurs a sense of place in a remote work world. A super, super cool platform. Think of like a WeWork or any one of those physical co-working spaces, but it's completely online. You can actually see who else is in the office. You can go walk down the virtual hall and check out and have a conversation with Bob. Go to the break room and have more casual conversation. You can host up to 10 people in your office. You get a nice custom branded office as well, as long as you mention that you saw it on the Winning Tactics. So we thank them for their continued support of the Winning Tactics podcast. So we've been talking a lot about the kind of the history and what the current state is. And we started diving down the path of how do we start to break through that mold and get away from, the life support system that most cold calling is on right now and really become effective with it. You talked about just being transparent up front. And I love that just in the respect of, I think it's critical not to waste people's time, your time or their time. But when we get to here's what I'm calling about, and in asking that question, how do you then transition that conversation into the sales conversation? What are some strategies you have for that?
The number one strategy is what we call premise selling, and setting a premise is the beginning. So it's, hey, I'm calling you because you were on this list or whatever, and we have this information about you. If I'm able to resolve this particular problem for you, that you're voicing is a problem, at a price that makes sense for you, can we do business? And I know that sounds very pushy, but that's the core behind the conversation. I wouldn't use those exact words, but you're basically setting a premise. If I can solve your problem, I'm not selling you, I'm solving your problem, is the subliminal message to that. Set the premise, and then it's your job to prove that you weren't lying. Yeah, we can resolve all of these issues for you today, and then it turns out you can't. Good luck getting back to that person.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the under promise and over deliver camp myself, because I've made the mistake and been on the other side of that and over promised and under delivered, and that's way more detrimental.
Yeah, I don't think the audience cares about your dating life.
No. I have kept the wife around who've been together for 18 years. So, so I've done something right, or it's cheaper to keep me. I'm not sure which.
Yeah. Well, you did learn in basic math how to divide by 2. So you're doing the right thing.
But I've always I've always thought it interesting because, so many people, I see so many people pitching these very unrealistic, and if you really look at what the offers are, they're truly unrealistic. And and I see this in the marketing world, and I'm sure you see it as well. These people that go, oh, we can get you on page 1, top 3 spots in a week.
Yep.
Well, that's not marketing. Marketing doesn't work that way. And I know marketing doesn't work that way. And, it's the long play, but,
Yep.
I get so frustrated when I see that stuff, because it makes it so much harder, I think, for the rest of us as well, when we start to have that conversation. So,
yeah. The issue at hand too is that in the consumer space, being deceptive tends to work better than it does in the industrial or the commercial space, although it there's scam artists and everything. But if you really want to understand deceptiveness and in the way that people pitch and otherwise, just wake up about 4:00 in the morning, pick your cable news channel of choice, and listen to the commercials, where you can hear gems like, today we'll give you a second one free, just pay another fee.
Yeah.
And people solving problems that nobody ever had or ever will have, but because they can talk you through it, they can convince you've got a problem that you don't. It's all, there's a reason that those products don't last on TV for more than a cycle, because by the time it comes around, people recognize, oh, that one was a ripoff, but this next one, boy, now I can open a can and not cut my fingers, although I've never cut my fingers in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Shipping and handling is the original sales scam, right? Because, I believe in shipping costs. That's a real thing. But typically, when you're talking about companies with large scale distribution services, that shipping cost is already baked into the price of the product.
Of course. And handling means they're handling you.
Yeah. So we're going to give you a second one for free. Just pay shipping and handling, which is $29.95.
Yeah. Well, the new one is, it's free. Just pay an extra fee. Well, what's a fee? What's the cost of the product?
It's just like it's just like the mysterious document fee that the car industry has. When you go buy a car.
Yeah.
Same kind of premise.
Yeah, those originated from the days with notaries, when they had ththings called doc stamps that were part of the process, that haven't been around forever.
Oh yeah. It doesn't.
At least I don't think they are. I don't know.
I just recently purchased a car, and the financing paperwork took about 15-20 minutes to get through. And they printed it all off the printer. They didn't have to handwrite anything. The finance guy took about 15-20 minutes to prep it, and half an hour later we were done. And but that's like a $700 doc fee, and at least around us.
Did you get the $3,000 paint coating covering and the rust proofing and the extended warranty that covers the ashtrays that don't exist in your car?
No, I'm truly waiting for the caller to tell me that my extended car warranty, or my car warranty is expired, and I should buy and extend it. So
yeah, buddy of mine who lives in New York hasn't owned a car since I think 1975. He gets those calls every day.
Yeah. It's interesting to think that that's where we've gone. That's where cold calling used to be a really big and critical part of business. Now, cold calling is a call centers across overseas that are just spamming you and spamming you and spamming you off of unauthorized lists. So
yeah, I think just from a customer service, or I should say a public service, everybody who's listening to this should talk to elder parents, grandparents, and otherwise, that if anyone ever calls you asking for money, gift cards, transfers, access to your computer, call your family and ask before you give them permission, because most likely they're going to take you.
Yeah, even in business, right? If that's the new one that goes around periodically as well. The boss emails you from their personal email because they're quote unquote doing it quickly from their phone and need a huge favor, and so that's anything that you look at it and you go, why isn't this happening on company email? Why this doesn't seem right?
I've received emails from myself telling me that I need $20,000 to be wired to my personal account. And the other is, every day for months, I get anywhere from 10 to 12 emails to check my voicemail. And we don't have a system like that. Or because there's a problem with my bank account, click here to verify.
Yep.
My number, not that this is about security, but number one, never click on an email, even if it smells like the person who sent it to you. If the perfume is coming off of it. If a bank sends you an email, go to the bank's website and see if that email exists in the messages.
Oh yeah,
these guys are getting stinky and clever,
and their grammar's drastically improving too.
Yes, it does improve.
So that used to be the big telltale sign, is you could look at the grammar and there's odd capitalization and weird grammar and
Well, the new one is they're using different letter sets from other languages that have dots and things.
Mm-hmm.
So you could look at an email from Chase, and if you look real close at the A, there's a dot.
Yep.
So the website you're going to is the Chase website, but it's Chase with a dot, and that's the spam. Yeah. So that's why you have to go direct and figure it out. Although we got to cut this short, because I do have to catch my flight to Nigeria, because my uncle I never heard of left me $7 million that I got to go pick up.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. You sent the $500 deposit ahead of time, right?
Oh, no. I've got a money belt with cash that I'm taking with me on the plane.
Oh, fantastic. Even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to risk the banks. You can't trust those guys.
No, never. So, well, we are getting to the end of time. I always like to wrap up the show with a final thought, something that people can take away from the show and apply to their business tomorrow. So I leave the floor to you for your final thoughts today.
If we're going to focus on the cold call is not dead. All the scammers and everyone else have sort of amputated many limbs of it, but there's still a core benefit of being able to make those calls. But cold calling has become warm calling. And that's when you have the connection, you have the reason to call, and the ability to get that attention up front. And it's still a very powerful way to run a business and grow if it's done right.
Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't agree more. I love the shift to the warm call, right? Because it doesn't take but 20 seconds to hop on LinkedIn or Facebook or any Google their business or their name and just get a little bit of information to make an educated call with. So I think now we can. I love the warm call philosophy. So really appreciate that. Where can people find you if they want to find out more or get some Fangled Group services?
What do you mean? I'm right here. Did you see me?
I see you.
Yep. You can check out fangledgroup.com. You can check out my podcast, The Fangled Cast, which is really about getting experts to answer questions. Rather than starting with the expert and hoping they know something, we get a topic and then we go find an expert who can really help educate and gain better understanding of those things. And I'm on LinkedIn. And if you've got a fax machine, tough, mine's broken, but the telex is still working. And we do accept smoke signals.
Fantastic. I will remember not to use the telegraph when trying to reach out to you in the future.
Yeah.
So.
..
But as always, we appreciate everybody that jumped on the live stream. We will be posting this episode on Thursday to YouTube and all the major podcast networks. We will make sure we put all of the Fangled Group links and where you can catch Andrew's podcast as well in the show notes. And if you are looking for expert marketing services for website SEO, content management, social media, check us out. My Roofing SEO, that's myrooferseo.com is our website. And we'd be more than happy to discuss what your digital marketing strategies and goals are, and really help you push those forward so you can really spend time focusing on expanding your business. So, which I think we all want to do at some point in time. So appreciate everybody jumping on the show, and we will see you all next week. Thank you so much.
Well, that wraps up yet another episode of the Winning Tactics Podcast. You can find Adam on both the LinkedIn and Facebook platforms. And to support the show and ensure the success of the podcast, would you kindly consider visiting Patreon.com/Adam Sinkus? We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, from the Winning Tactics Podcast, remember, culture is how your team behaves when no one is looking. Take good care, and thanks for listening.